Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me great pleasure to present to you Dr. Luyaluka, who has a Ph.D. honorary degree in Theology from Trinity Graduate School of Apologetics and Theology, Kerala, India. He is a native and citizen of Democratic Republic of Congo. Dr. Luyaluka is the founder of NZIL'ALOWA, an Afrocentric academy aiming at solar renaissance as the recourse, even return of Afrikans to the epistemology and scientific religion that marked the success of ancient Egypt and African pre-colonial civilizations, namely the Kongo Kingdom. NZIL'ALOWA comprises an academic branch named Institut des Sciences and a mixed and initiatory branch called NZIL'ALOWA. With the Institut des Sciences and a mix, Dr. Luyaluka has published 15 books available at Amazon.com and 32 scientific papers downloadable from www.academia.edu, which I will make sure is in your description for this interview. He is currently one of the leading scholars in the field of Congo and Congo religion. I welcome to you, Dr. Luyaluka. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, Enolia. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here because there are so many questions to understand about the Congo. And I want to let you just, first of all, get started in sharing it with us about the Congo religion as it stands now and who are the Congo as it pertains to Democratic Republic of Congo.
The Congo is the ancient religion of the Kongo people. Now, we call Kongo people the people who belong to the former kingdom of Congo, a kingdom that parts are now included in the southern Gabon, a part of Republic of Congo, a part of Democratic Republic of Congo, and a part of Angola. So it is a kingdom that was astride all those four countries. Now, in that kingdom, initiation or the mystery teachings, I call mystery teachings. Mystery I take in the original Grecian meaning, which reads mysterion, a body of teachings leading to illumination. Now, the Congo people, they had three kinds of higher teaching. I'm not speaking of lower initiatory rites, rituals, etc. No, we are speaking of higher schools of education. We had a school of divine teaching, which was called the Kimpasi. We had the school of civil teaching. I can call it the traditional Congo University. It included schools of law, trade, politics, and so on. And beside, we had the Kinkimba, which was the school, the martial school, the school that trained the soldiers. Those three schools were based on the divine teaching. I mean, the divine teaching were basic. Whether you study law, whether you study to be a soldier, you will start by the divine teaching. that divine teaching, the practice of that divine teaching is what we call today the book Congo. Now, the important thing is that the book Congo, in its true configuration, which is congruent with the Egyptian, the ancient Egypt configuration, is an exact science. It is very important to understand this because when it comes to the practice of African traditional religion, people don't realize that there are two kinds of practices of this religion. African traditional religion is in the majority of cases practiced at the human level. And there is a minority of people, especially the Bantu people, and especially amongst the Bantu people, the Kongo people, where you can find people who practice these at the divine level. So those two levels has to be understood because in most of the case, when you meet Vodun from Haiti, Vodun from Benin, Ifa, Centuria, Palomonte, etc., Biri of Gabon, you are dealing with the human practice of African traditional religion.
Understood.
What people must understand here when we say human and divine, it is not in the way of demeaning those religions. No, our ancestors had the wisdom not to impose higher exigence requirements of purification in the same manner to everybody. So those higher requirements was set in the divine practice to a minority of people, but those were basic to the civilization. The majority was in the ritualistic practice. Now the difference between the two is this one. The divine practice aims at first the human being working to become back the child of God he has been in heaven, to become back an Osiris. The term Osiris means only child of God. The equivalent in Kikongo is Malungila or Maungu or Tafumalwangu. Those three are synonymous. Malungila is used in the Kimbasi school. Maungu is used in the Lemba school, the school of civil mystery, and Tafumalwangu is used in the martial school. So that is the first aim. Become back an Osiris, a child of God. We have been in heaven. The second, to heal. But the healing work in the divine is accomplished through the purification of thoughts. Everything in the divine mystery is based on purification. The third aim is to develop a power through the purification of thought. That power, when it is developed, it should be perpetuated in the clan, in the family, through faith as a human power. I will give more explanation on this later. And the fourth aim is to fight witchcraft by using the power of love, not by using witchcraft.
Correct.
So those are the four aims or articulation of the divine practice. Therefore, you understand that the divine practice is based on the purification of souls. The ancestors who intervene here are the ancestors of water, Bakulu, Bamaza. Now, it does Maza means water. Bakulu Bamaza literally means the ancestors of water. Water here is Mpemba, the white clay. Now, it doesn't mean that they literally live in water. No, it means that they live in a world of purity, of holiness, symbolized by water. So you, so you have those ancestors who intervene. Let me here say something. The Bakulu Bamaza are different from the Bisimbi Yamaza. What we call Bisimbi Yamaza are the spirits that protect waters. They can protect lakes, etc. They abide in that lake. They abide in the thing they protect. While we have seen that the Bakulu Bamaza don't abide in water. Water is just symbolic for them. So you have those ancestors who intervene are called the Bakulu Bamaza. One thing more again about divine practice is that because it is based on the purification of thoughts, here intervene the notion of the commandments of God and the notion of sin. When I mention this, usually people from the diaspora will tell me, oh, doesn't this come from Portuguese? I say, no, it doesn't come from Portuguese, because the commandments of God are called by the Yombe people. The Yombe are the Congo ethnics who are near the ocean, near the Atlantic. So among those people, the commandments of God are called Kongo. Kongo, like their ethnic. If the commandments of God were brought by the white people, they will not tolerate the black people to call those commandments by the name of the nation, because it will mean a kind of ethical superiority of the black to the white. You see? So it means that the commandments of God were there before their arrival. Second argument. The word for sin in Kikongo is sumu. Now, this is not a word taken or brought by the white people, because it is a word well rooted in the semantic of Kikongo. Sumu comes from suma. Suma means to put in the soil, to plant.
Yes.
Now, the inverse, the opposite of suma is sumuna, to uproot. And now the fact of being uprooted is called sumuka. Now, when a plant is uprooted, it is condemned to death. And sumuka means also sin. So you have there the doctrine that sin leads to death. So you see, it is not a word that has been borrowed or brought by the white people or made by the white people. No, it is a word so anchored in our semantics.
Yes.
The last argument is that the golden rule, which in Christianity is love your neighbor as yourself,
yes,
was known by the Kongo people, but differently. The Kongo people say Love your neighbor as your own body. So it is not the same rendition. All these arguments show that the notion of the commandments of God and the notion of sin was part of the teachings of Kongo, the Kongo religion. Now, this is about the divine practice. Now, what about the human practice? The aim of the human practice was to organize society, to protect society, and to elevate society through human means. But those human means include all human teaching, essentially healing through material means, protecting people in case of war, etc.
Right.
Here, the ancestors who intervene are called Bakulu Banseke. By this, we mean the spirits that govern nature.
Right.
While we have seen in the divine, it was the ancestors who abide in the superior word of purity. But here, we are dealing with the spirit that governs nature. Among those spirits, you have the Bisibi Yamaza, because they govern, they protect waters or abysses. So these are the ancestors that are used in the divine, in the human practice. In the human practice, you have no notion of sin. You have no notion of the commandments of God. That is why it is very important to understand these two levels, because when people focus only on the human, they have the impression that in Africa, the commandments of God were not known and the notion of sin doesn't exist. No, it is not the case. The notion, the divine mystery, the divine teaching were there and were basic to the organization of society. Now, I say that at the human level, we don't have the commandments of God, but we have ethics. That ethics is also contextual. It is not an absolute ethic. It depends on situation. It depends on schools.
Mm-hmm.
That is the second point. The third and last point here, you must understand that power is developed in the divine mystery. It is developed there as the succor of the Bakulu Bamaza. It is developed there through the purification of thoughts. Now you must understand that. Let's take an example. Someone who developed the power of teleportation. He can instantly leave Brazzaville, where I'm saying here, and find himself in Angola.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order to develop such a power in the divine mystery, it takes time. It takes a lot of purification. And generally, when one reaches such a power, he is old. And he has no time to take someone to train him in order to reach these through the same means. So he will bypass all these steps and transmit his power through faith. When the power is transmitted through faith, it becomes a human power. It becomes the succor of the Bakulu Banteke. Now, the difference between the two powers is that the divine power, because it is obtained through purification, cannot be used in evil ways. It can be used only in good purpose. While the human, because it is based on on faith, it is an ambivalent power. It can be used for good or for evil. However, the evil use is normally forbidden. So that's what we can say about the book Congo. The book Congo is the divine practice of, of African traditional religion. Of today, this practice is seen in certain rituals of the Bantu people, but it is seen mostly in among the Congo people. And among the Congo people, it is seen in my school, which is the NZIL'ALOWA Academy.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then I applaud you for preserving that, because when we, having gone through everything that we've gone through colonialism and everything, the practices are not embedded in the people like they were pre-colonistic days. So talk to us a little bit about how these practices are preserved, because I would assume that they are preserved through storytelling and oratory, because we do not document things down, or is that an incorrect assumption? And then the other question I have, or statement I have, is didn't the West copy our mystery schools in terms of the fact that they came up with college, and we look at the College of the Arts and Sciences, and all that is a mimic of the mystery school, right? The College of Arts and Sciences practices the arts, the sciences, math, all of the generic subjects, except the humanity, the divine love and understanding that's supposed to be among human beings. So a lot of things in the West were captured and kind of copied from here, but not in its entirety. So just some of your thoughts and your comments maybe around that.
Yes, let's first start from the first question. The first question. The teaching of the divine teaching, the teaching of Congo, was bequeathed to us through words of mouth and ear, but it was also documented. It was also documented, for example, in the Nedu nature, the ancient writing of the Egyptian. You have, for example, the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yes.
You have also the writings of some scholars, such as Foucault, who is well known in the diaspora as Ibambwende, Kabunseke, Foucault. And you have also many other scholars, Ngoma and white scholar who wrote on this subject. Now, the problem is that those scholars were not theologians. In most of the cases, they were anthropologists working in order to describe a religion. So they didn't have the scope I have as a theologian. So the knowledge of the divine nature of this religion didn't happen to be understood by them. But it was there. It is there.
Okay.
The other thing is that this knowledge, this scientific knowledge, is included also in the Bible.
Okay.
So it is there. But people are wrong when they say, oh, the Bible is wrong, it is a false book. I say, no. The Bible, the principles that are in the Bible were copied from our ancestors. Now, in order to answer your question, let me tell you how I came to the religion of my ancestors.
Sure.
I was baptized from the Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
I was baptized at the age of 10 years old. At 13 years old, I left the Baptist church. I said to my mother, I don't learn something new at the church. All they say, I already know. It's the same stories being retold every Sunday. So I began my own journey. And when I graduated from high school, a friend of mine introduced me to the Christian Science Church. And I evolved in the Christian Science Church, even becoming a teacher and lecturer. But at that moment, I was again the interest on the religion of my ancestor arose again because I have read Fukiao when I was at junior high.
Mm-hmm.
I had that book, I had his book, I read that book, so I knew about the religion of my ancestors on the anthropological level. So I began again to read that book because I said to myself, Fukiao spoke with the late initiates of Lemba. Therefore, they must have told him the master secrets of our religion. So I read that book in order to understand what is that secret, what is the basic teachings of our ancestors. I read the book about 5 times. I didn't find the secret. Then I said, no, he must have been told something. And then I prayed. I prayed for God to illuminate me because I was convinced that he was told this. After I prayed, the intuition came to me. What I call intuition in the West, they will say, oh, something that come to the thought. In Africa, for us black people, an intuition is an ancestor speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that intuition that told me, study the song and compare with what is found in the Bible. By the Bible, they were leading me to First John chapter 3, verse 1 to 3,
Okay.
where it is said, behold, beloved, we are now children of God, but
Mm-hmm.
what we shall be has not yet manifested. And then I asked myself, what we shall be? We shall be children of God because we are children of God here, potentially. We shall be children of God in a manifest way on the condition of purifying ourselves. So they told me, now read that song. And when I read the song of Lemba, I saw the same teaching. They were speaking about Mawungu. Now Mawungu means Osiris. Mawungu means a child of God. And that person is called Mawungu. And he is in the process of initiation. Why? He is there in order to become a Mawungu. So I understood, he was a Mawungu potentially. Now he went to the process of purification in order for him to become a Mawungu in a manifest way. So I realized, it is the same teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I took the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
The principal personage in that book is called Osiris Ani.
Yes.
Now, Osiris Ani is dead, and he finds himself in the beyond. And in the beyond, he claims the right to be an Osiris, which means he was an Osiris potentially. Now he's claiming the right to be an Osiris in a manifest way because he has lived a life of purity. So I understood that in those 3 cases, we have the same religion teaching us how to become back the child of God we have been, the Osiris, the Malungila or Malungu we have been, and how to regain that nature through the purification of thoughts. So that became for me a torch that leads me up to now. Later on, after graduating from the theological school, I came to discover that religion is an exact science. I'm going to prove this, but let me go now to the second question. So the answer about your first question is that the religion is there. It is in our culture. It is in some books written by scholars. It is in the Bible. It is in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Okay. But the problem is that you must have a correct reading of all of this. That's why, as a theologian, I devised what I call solar hermeneutics. Okay. That may help people to read the Bible from an Afrocentric point of view. Now, to the second question. We know that the knowledge of the West came from ancient Egypt, from Kama. These are all those the great philosophers of antiquity were just students of the priests of ancient Egypt. Right. But the problem is science has taught by the black people in ancient Egypt was based on the fact, the demonstrable fact that soul is free from the body. Mm-hmm. Because soul is free from the body, soul was depicted as a bird or a butterfly hovering over a body or over a corpse. Now, that soul is free from the body means that when the body sleeps, the soul can peregrinate to higher planes of existence and get in touch with ancestors and bring knowledge to humanity. So it means that for our ancestors, knowledge is revelatory. Now we find the same among the other continental Africans. When a Kongo people allude to a new thoughts, he say, "Ngindu zindwakidi," which means literally, thoughts came to me. He doesn't say, boasting like in the West, I have conceived ideas. No, we don't conceive ideas. We receive ideas. So it means that they come from the knowledge from the higher planes. So knowledge for the black people is revelatory. Now, that knowledge was based on religion, as I have told you. Those who attended the civil mystery and those who attended the martial mystery, the starting point was the same, divine teaching. So that was the case also in Egypt. The starting point of the teachings were always the divine mystery, except when the student was a white people. Okay. When he was a white people, they will do their best for him not to learn their religion. And they will tell him, you have to start from the human mysteries before learning the divine. And Pythagoras spent 20 years studying human mystery in order to be qualified for the divine mystery. Not a single Grecian student was qualified to learn that. But when you live among people who practice their religion, you can get some glimmers of their religion.
Mm-hmm.
So they will get those glimmers, and when they will go back to Greece, they will try to fill the gap of their religion, of our knowledge, by using speculation. That is the starting point of philosophy as a speculative discipline. Now, we told them our science, which is a revelatory science. But when they went back, they realized that it wasn't in congruence with their perception of knowledge, because they think that knowledge comes from their brain. So they began to move away from our fundamental. The first move was made by Paro. Paro said, oh yeah, the soul is free from the body, but before birth, before the person is born, the soul is free. But when he is born, the soul is attached to the body. So he engaged the soul. And the people of the West acclaimed, because of them it was a scientist who said this. And he didn't give any proof of this. Later on came the materialists, Neoplatonists, after Neoplatonists, the materialists, they said, oh, even before birth, the soul never had been free from the body. In fact, the soul is a process in matter. So the soul was completely engaged. And later on came Francis Bacon. He said, why are you giving yourself a lot of trouble about the soul? In order to do science, you have to observe the nature, take some empirical facts and generalize those facts, and you arrive to knowledge. That is called the empirical methods. With that method, the white people came to acquire a lot of knowledge. But in fact, they departed from our science, and they departed also from the basic of our science. Two basic. First of all, that knowledge is of a revelatory kind, and second, that reality is spiritual. I'm going to prove this when we speak about the cosmological argument. So those are the two fundamental of Black knowledge. Knowledge for us is revelatory, and knowledge is based on the fact that reality is spiritual. With this kind of science, we arrive to a technology which is the cheapest one, the more efficient one, and environmental friendly one.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to summarize, the white people took the basic of their knowledge from us, but they departed from our basic proposition of that science, that
Right.
reality is spiritual and that knowledge is revelatory. So they are now in a materialistic science which is based on the belief, I say a belief, that reality is material.
Mm.
Not a single scientist in the West can prove to you and me that reality is material, while I can prove that reality is spiritual.
Yes.
thanks to the Kemetic cosmological argument. And we are going to speak about this.
I am ready to hear about this. So please do tell us about the cosmology of the Congo. Oh, this is wonderful.
Yes. To speak about the cosmology of the Congo in a scientific manner is to speak about the Kemetic cosmological argument.
Yes.
Now, let me first explain what is a cosmological argument. It is a deductive argument that tries to prove the existence of the Most High by starting from the existence of the cosmos. This process was known of the ancient Egyptian, and they told the Grecian students that our religion is a science, and God, we can prove his existence. That is why, starting from Plato, the Western scholars strive to demonstrate the existence of God. In the 19th century, they created what is called in the United Kingdom Gifford Lectures.
Mhm.
Gifford Lectures is an academic institution that uses the best minds of the West in order to develop natural theology. That means in order to prove the existence of God through logic.
Right.
But let me tell you, up to now, that endeavor that started from Plato is a failure in the West.
Mhm.
And why is it a failure? My answer is very simple. It is a failure because the concept of God used in the West is a false one. It may surprise many people, but I tell them it is very easy to check. God is defined by those people as being the supreme being creator, whereby we black people, we separate the Most High from the creator.
Mhm.
They claim that both are the same and one being. Now, my question is, if God is the supreme being creator, where does creation occurs? There are only two answers. Either creation occurs in the creator, that is in the Most High, or it occurs outside of him. If creation occurs in the Most High, then something new appears in the Most High, which means that the Most High changes. If God changes, there might be a principle of his mutability,
Mhm.
and that principle must be greater than God, which is impossible because God is understood as being the greatest possible being. So maybe creation occurs outside of God. But if creation occurs outside of God, then when we take creation, we add with God, we have an entity which is greater than God. So in both ways, it doesn't work. So
Mhm.
they will never happen to prove through logic the existence of their God. Now, after graduating from Trinity Graduate School of Apologetics and Theology, I said, I'm going to delve on theological philosophy. And in that domain, one of the endeavor is to prove the existence of God.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, I'm going to prove the existence of God as conceived by my ancestors, not as perceived in the West. So I'm going to prove the existence of God as different from the existence of the Creator. So the result is what I'm going to present you now.
Okay.
It is called the Kemetic cosmological argument. It starts from two premises. the existence of individualities, and the law of causality. So let's start. I'm an individual being. You are an individual being. So it means that this universe in which we live is an individual universe because it is an aggregate of individualities.
Right.
Being an individual entity, this temporal universe must be the work of an individual cause. Now, the individual nature of this cause begs, in face of the infinity of possibilities, it begs the existence of other similar causes. They may have created or not yet have created the universe, but they exist. So we have effective and potential causes. Here intervene an hypothesis whose validity I will prove later. The hypothesis is that every creation abides in its creator. Every creation abides in its creator. Now, let us introduce an entity that includes all the potential and effective causes, or all the potential and effective creators. That new entity must be the greatest possible being, because any universe you will imagine will exist in its creator, and the creator will exist in this entity. Therefore, this new entity is the Most High, the Supreme Being, that we call in Bukongo Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo. It then follows that since Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo is the greatest possible being, Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo must be indivisible and immutable. If he were divisible and mutable, there must be a principle of his mutability and divisibility, and that principle must be greater than him. According to the law of causality, any cause must be adequate and anterior to its effect.
Right.
So that principle must be greater than God, which is impossible because Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo is the greatest possible being. So the conclusion is that Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo, the Most High, is indivisible and immutable. Let me add another attribute.
Okay.
Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo, the Most High, must be transcendent. By transcendent is meant in the West that he is above everything. But here in Africa, by transcendent, we mean also that Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo, the Most High God, doesn't know evil. If he had a knowledge of evil within the frame of his indivisibility, in him to know and to be are the same and one thing, which means that what the Most High knows is what he is. If he knows evil, he must be infinitely good and infinitely bad, which is impossible. So God is not cognizant of evil. Now, we have seen that the Most High is the ultimate cause. He is indivisible, immutable, transcendent. That's what we really understand by the word God.
Right.
By the word God, we don't mean a white birded being soaring in the skies with blue eyes.
Right.
No, we don't mean that. we mean the superior principle, transcendent, invisible, indivisible, and so on. Now, let us go a little bit deeper. We have seen that every creator expresses an individuality which is included in God. Now, God is indivisible. Then it follows that every creator or every child of God, we can call them children of God. So every child of God expresses the fullness of God, but in an individual manner. That fullness of God is what we call the Logos or the Word. In the Bible, it is called the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word is God, and the Word was God. That is the fullness that we call the Logos. In Congo, that fullness at the celestial level, we call it Pinanza. In Kama, in ancient Egypt, but that fullness at the celestial level was called Ptah. Now I insist on the celestial level, because at the temporal level, Ptah is manifested as Horus.
Right.
So Horus is the manifestation of the divinity in you and me and around you and me. It is the Logos. In the Bible, it is called the Christ. Now, this knowledge in the Bible is a little bit imperfect. Why I say this? Because at the celestial level, they speak of Christ. At the temporal level, they speak of Christ. The one who manifests that fullness at the highest level is called also the Christ. So you have Christ, that make a lot of confusion. While in Congo, at the celestial level, we have Pinanza. Pina means power. Pina means also the fact of becoming invisible. So Pinanza means the invisible power that governs the universe.
Right.
The same divinity is called the governor. In some ethnic, he is called the judge. For example, in the Bible, he's called the judge.
Yes.
In the book of the Hebrew, chapter 12, he is called the judge. Among the Sumerian, because the Sumerian belonged culturally to Africa. Among the Sumerian, he was called Enlil, and Enlil is the god governor. Exactly as in Congo, Pinanza is the governor.
Okay.
Among the Egyptian, Ptah is called the god of order.
Yes.
Among the Baganda of Uganda, he is called also Muhanga, and Muhanga is the god of order. Now, to set order, to govern, to judge is the same function in the setting of the ancient civilization. So here we have the notion. So the Logos at the celestial level is called Finance. At the temporal level, in Congo, he is called Malungila.
Okay.
Ki Malungila. In Kemet, it is Horus.
Yes.
The one who expresses that nature, he is called Malungila. In Kemet, he is called Osiris. So let us come back to the Kemetic cosmology argument. So we have seen so far that you have the Most High God, who is transcendent, indivisible, and immutable. We have children of God who expresses the fullness of God in them.
Yes.
So we have three celestial divinities. Now, because God is indivisible, those three shares the same substance. Those three are coexistent. Those three act in synergy. That is what is called Trinity among our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
To illustrate that Trinity, when you put yourself in front of a mirror, when you move, your image moves. When the image moves, it is you that moves in it, thanks to the power of the reflection of the mirror. Now, the Logos is the power of the reflection of the divine nature. Thanks to this, it is in reality God who acts in you and in me in order for us to do good. I have the same in the Bible when Jesus said, whatever my Father do, I do. He is alluding to that true Trinity. Now you ask me, oh, what about the Trinity they told us? That is a false one that came from Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
After starting from Egypt, Pharaoh remembered that there were three persons in Trinity, but he made the mistake of confusing the Logos and the Creator. So it remains only two divinities. And he said that there were three. And then Plato added the Psyche as a third one. That Psyche became the Holy Spirit. So the Trinity became an intricate, complicated notion that make of God the most complicated being. While in our tradition, God is the simplest being because he is made of one whole and divisible. So even the virus is more complicated than God. So now, this argument can be extended to all the essential doctrine of solar religion, of the religion of our ancestors. All the essential doctrine can be demonstrated through the Kemetic cosmology argument. But to make the matter short, I'm going to introduce the point of cosmology.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, where does our temporal universe exist in relation to the Most High God? It cannot exist in the Most High, because if it were, at the moment of creation, God will change, while God is immutable. It cannot be outside of God, because if it were, then added to God, it will result in an entity greater than God, which is also impossible. So where does it exist? Suppose we tell that Miss Enolia has a car. Her car is neither in Angola, where she abides, neither outside of Angola. The answer is B, her car is in her mind. So, because creation is neither within God, neither outside of God, it is in the consciousness, the temporal consciousness of the Creator. And that is the proof of my hypothesis. This means also that reality is celestial. The temporal is only a limited or reverse perception of that reality. There are not two realities. There is not a material reality and a spiritual reality. No, there is only one reality, the spiritual. The material is only a limited perception of that reality. Now, these can be intricate for the first time people hear about this, because we have been accustomed to think in the Western manner that reality is very immaterial.
Yes.
But our tradition tells us that no, reality is spiritual. Now let me take you an example. Suppose in Rwanda, by a shiny time, there is a plane 10 miles above your head, an airplane. You see it very small, like a bird. But because you have the experience of planes, you know that it is a big one.
And
So according to you, there are not two planes. There are not a big plane and a little plane. No, there is only one plane, which is the bigger. The little plane is only a limited perception of the one and only plane, which is the bigger plane. It is the same. When I see Miss Enolia, if all I see is a black lady with hairs, intelligent, limited intelligence, limited beauty, and so on, I'm focusing on something that doesn't exist. I'm not focusing on the Osiris. If I focus on Osiris, on the reality, I will perceive an infinite intelligence, an infinite beauty, an infinite glory, an infinite power, and that is the only Enolia that truly exists. So to summarize, I will say that the cosmological argument is a set, it states the essential doctrines of our religion through deduction reasoning. And because it is a deductive reasoning, those doctrines are coherent. One cannot deny the other because one, the higher is deduced from the lower through deduction. In epistemology, when you have a set of deductive coherent truths, you have what is called an exact science.
yes,
So proof has been given here and now that the religion of our ancestors since the time of ancient Egypt is an exact science. Proof has been established that reality is spiritual. This is very important because Africa has an advance to the West in many things. Let me give you just an example.
Mhm.
My nephew was a victim of a gunshot, which left him with a double fracture of the femur. So we went to a military hospital. They told us that in order to heal the case, he must have 3 surgery. For the first surgery only, we have to spend more than $5,000. It was too much for the family. So I said, look, we are going not to use white people medicine. We are going to use traditional medicine. So we called a traditional orthopedist. He came. To make a long matter short, after 5 days of treatment, I said to my nephew, who was sat on the floor, I told him, raise your leg. And he did, which means that the case was healed in 5 days. Now, when I mentioned this in a scientific paper, voices arose from Ivory Coast, from Nigeria, from Chad, from South Africa, people telling me that we have the same here. So I understood that that technology is known all over Africa,
Mm-hmm.
but people cannot defend it because if they go to the WHO, the World Health Organization, they will tell them, prove this. And in order to prove this, you have to start from the fact that reality is material,
Yes.
which is a cage, and
Yes.
it doesn't work. And then
Yes.
we tell you it is witchcraft.
Yes.
No, it is not witchcraft because reality is spiritual. So we have to battle on that field
Yes.
and convince ourselves that reality is spiritual. And because reality is spiritual, our technology is valid.
Exactly.
The Chinese, the Chinese have convinced the WHO that acupuncture is a true medicine technology. Now you can prove that technology through the Western anatomy, but it is nowadays accepted in the West as a valid approach. We have to do the same because we can prove that reality is spiritual while they cannot prove that reality is material.
Yes. Yes. And I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. This has
That is an opportunity. That is an opportunity that is given by to our scholars, to our politicians, in order to defend our science. Our religion is an exact science, and our science is based on demonstrable fact. Our science is more scientific than the science of the West.
Yes. Yes, very much so. Very much so. Thank you so much. So I want to ask you to come back because I want to have a conversation about pre-colonistic Bakongo. And I know that that will take us another hour or so. So I'm going to actually ask you to come back next week. Can we make that a date and come back next week and talk about pre-colonistic Bakongo?
The Congo Free Colonizer said, no problem, no problem, we can make
I
it
would
next week.
absolutely love this. And for our audience, because I followed you, you put the puzzle pieces together for me, all right? And I have read the Book of the Dead. I also have read the Kabbalion so I could do the comparative understanding. I've also had to read about Thoth and Horus, so I understood where you're coming from there. I've read Stitchin, so I've read about Enlil and Anki and the whole understanding of the Anunnaki, and then all the way through. And so for our audience, do your homework. Do your homework so you can understand and have a fundamental understanding so that you can read Dr. Luyaluka and have an objective mindset and understand exactly where the Bakongo are coming from. And you're going to have to do your homework in order to do so. Otherwise, you just have another viewpoint that you don't understand. It is not good for us to draw conclusions and fill in the blank with, well, since I don't understand it, I don't know. We need to do our homework. And as you said, Dr. Luyaluka, we need to document ours so that it can basically be acknowledged for what it brings to the table. What a phenomenal, phenomenal conversation this has been, and what a phenomenal teaching this has been. And I thank you. I thank you so, 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 so much. And from the bottom of my heart, this is part of the studies that I've always wanted to engage in and whatnot. And to have you here is just, for me, it's just like a dream come true. So thank you again. And would you like to leave the audience with some last words of what they should be doing, or your last heartfelt wisdom?
My last word is this one. We are starting a journey since the year 2000. According to the prophecies of our ancestors from ancient Egypt, of our prophets like Simon Kimbangu, we are engaging in a new era. in this era, the Black people paradigm in science and in religion will be the leading paradigm. For this to happen, it is already happening, but we need two things. We need to become conscious of the fact that our religion is in reality in exact science. And we need to bring that scientific dimension to all the trends of our religion. And the second thing, we need to convince ourselves, thanks to the Kemetic cosmological argument, that reality is spiritual. This is not anymore a superstition. This is a demonstrable fact. With these two facts, that reality is spiritual, that our religion is an exact science, the Black people will become the leading force in the new society.
Thank you so much. And please share with our audience how they can get in contact with you, how they can sign up for your school, how they can reach you if they want to study more.
If they want to reach me, they can reach me from my Facebook page. They have just to Google my name, Luyaluka. I think I'm the only Luyaluka on Facebook. So they can just Google my name, Luyaluka, or they can find me on YouTube at NZIL'ALOWA first. NZIL'ALOWA 1. You don't put the apostrophe, you put it all as one word. NZIL'ALOWA 1, and you get my my YouTube channel. For those who want to write to me, they can write to Kiatezua at hotmail.com. Kiatezua, KIATEZUA at hotmail.com. That is the easier email.
Okay, and then I will capture that information also from you to put in the description for this interview, for this conversation. Again, thank you so much. And to our audience, I hope you've enjoyed this. I sure have. So take care for now till part 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.